Ladies and gentlemen, in a couple of seconds, you will hear Rand Paul, in his own words, endorse Trump, essentially endorse Trump, but absolutely eviscerate Trump's closest competitor, who is about 30 to 50 points behind in almost every state, Nikki Haley. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll have live streams tomorrow. I've been postponing some live streams to just focus on some uploads. But this is very interesting. Be here tomorrow for the live streams, ladies and gentlemen. My super thanks is below. Become a Patreon. That's below in the pinned comment. To read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Rand Paul is excellent in many ways. He's against never-ending military conflict. Trump is against never-ending military conflict. We did not have a new military quagmire or conflict with Trump. The reason we haven't with Biden, although we really do in Europe, his foreign policy led to nuclear confrontation. So we did. When people say, well, we didn't have any with Biden either, it's like, well, look what's taking place in Europe. Look how close we are to nuclear confrontation because of Democratic Party and Biden, or, the foreign policy of people around him making major decisions. But anyway, people vote for Trump or Rand Paul or potentially JFK Jr. or Vivek Ramaswamy or Tulsi Gabbard because they are anti-war military quagmires, endless military conflict. They don't want Americans sent overseas. This is what drives me. I wrote about this in The Hill. I am against counterinsurgency conflicts in the Jerusalem Post, the Huffington Post, and Salon. I've written a great deal about this when I was writing and getting published all the time, when I was really interested in writing. I am against never-ending military conflict. That's what drives me. Okay, that is what I consider moral. I consider it immoral to ignore foreign policy. Just say you know nothing about foreign policy, and then, you can then complain about Trump and vote Democrat. But don't say that Trump is the immoral choice when you've completely ignored the fact that Americans have risked their lives, given their lives have been altered. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have had their lives altered, men and women, because Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bush, Obama, Biden, Kerry, Clinton, Pelosi, and others sent them to endless military conflict. Trump did not. Rand Paul is against it. Tulsi Gabbard is against that. JFK Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, all against that. This is the populism that Democrats are petrified of. And you have people, well, just listen to Rand Paul. You can hear him right now. Hit subscribe to this channel. Be here tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, also for the live streams. But here, check this out.
Good morning, everyone. As I told you yesterday, I'm ready to say something about the presidential race. I've had a long relationship with Donald Trump, and there's a lot to like there. I'm also a big fan of a lot of the fiscal conservatism of Ron DeSantis. I think Vivek Ramaswamy's been an important voice. Also have listened to and met with the independent Bobby Kennedy. I'm not yet ready to make a decision, but I am ready to make a decision on someone who I cannot support. So I'm announcing this morning that I'm Never Nikki. And if you go to nevernikki.net, you can let her know that you're not a supporter either. I don't think any informed or knowledgeable libertarian or conservative should support Nikki Haley. I've seen her attitude towards our interventions overseas. I've seen her involvement in the military-industrial complex, $8 million being paid to become part of the team. But I've also seen her indicate that she thinks you should be registered to use the internet, that people posting ideas anonymously. I think she fails to understand that our republic was founded upon people like Ben Franklin, Sam Adams, Madison, John Jay, and others who posted routinely. For fear of the government, they posted routinely anonymously. And I think her...
So, when you say that, well, he hasn't really endorsed Trump, actually, starting a website, that's a pretty clear endorsement of Donald Trump. And I don't think he's that big of a fan of DeSantis. And there's nobody left. Chris Christie has left. the buffet or the contest, or maybe gone to the buffet. Who knows? But Chris Christie's no longer there, and he dropped out. Nikki Haley will eventually drop out, likely after New Hampshire. And DeSantis has absolutely ruined his chances in 28. That's a whole other story. You don't betray the person who made you famous to begin with, or that you don't betray the person you've been trying to emulate for years. That makes no sense. Okay, DeSantis, the allure, what people liked about DeSantis is that he reminded them of Trump, and so he didn't care about media. That's good. I mean, there's so many good things about Trump. Mainly his views on foreign policy. Domestic policy, we had record low poverty and record highs in household median income. If you're a morally superior liberal Democrat and you claim to care about poor people, why wouldn't you vote for Trump? I don't want to hear it because I know the stupid rebuttal, but he's the end of the world. Okay, whatever. The point is we had record low poverty with Trump. So in addition to not getting us into endless military quagmires, we had record low poverty, record highs in household median income. I think Rand Paul would agree with this. And I wrote, if you remember an article I wrote in the Huffington Post a long time ago in 2014, I think. It was actually, I'm a liberal Democrat. Something along the title was, I'm a liberal Democrat, I'm voting for Rand Paul. And when you look at President Obama, endless military conflict. He continued the military conflict that he campaigned on being illegal. The great thing about President Obama when he was campaigning was that he called Bush's quagmires illegal. And then he continued them. Even Noam Chomsky, who is very bizarre in his views on politics. I mean, you could say that he's been interesting to listen to over the decades. But he says, Trump was less militant. Well, what's there not to like then? Trump was less militant than President Obama. End of story. You have my vote. Okay? But then he focused on the planet and probably ignored the fact that Biden flooded the country full of millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. But Trump is I will always vote for the less militant candidate. I don't want a president who is duped or deceived or influenced with one intel report or with media pressure. Trump doesn't care about the pressure of people in Washington. You can't pressure Trump. That's why it's so funny when they accused him of being compromised, because they're looking at themselves. That's the way they would react. The interesting thing with Trump is that he's the most moral candidate. It is immoral to engage in destroying Libya, which is what Biden and President Obama did. That was a failed military intervention that upended a country. Notice how wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats who think that Trump is the Antichrist, they haven't vacationed in Libya since 2011? Actually, not many people have. It's a country that's been decimated by military conflict and civil unrest, and that all started in large part after 2011. When President Obama, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, destroyed the country with a military intervention. And so you have a situation, or I should say his intervention led to destruction. But that's just, and even President Obama stated that was his biggest regret. 60 Minutes. Oh, your biggest regret? Okay. Oh, Trump says a mean tweet. Let's talk about that for 5 hours or 5 years. Democrats can actually destroy countries along with traditional Republicans, and Trump being mean will be the end of the world. Don't you know? It's the end of the world. Trump is just like the authoritarians and despots and totalitarians of the 30s and 40s. Yet he is not prone to sending Americans to endless military conflict. His adversaries are. He doesn't care what you think. And also, we had a great economy and a great foreign policy, and he offered dreamers citizenship for a wall that would have saved lives. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Rand Paul did a great thing, essentially endorsed Trump. Give me your thoughts. Thank you. Hit subscribe. Be here tomorrow for the live streams.